Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first panel of the day, my first panel and the team's first panel on corporate ethics. We're going to be looking at the role of whistleblowers, and I'm going to be a moderator. I'm Sam, and we have our panel, our team, our amazing leadership team. Shilpi's just with us in the background. I think Kevin's here, Kevin Diaz, and Bruce Hoffman, and Susanna Raj. Yeah, really looking forward to it. So yeah, the main discussion point really for today is to look at the recent news about Frances Haugen's report and testimony to Congress about her experience at Facebook and the interviews that she's had, with media outlets, and really what our thoughts are on what she raised, the points that she raised. So, as a starter question to the panel, and what are your views on, when just a few days ago we couldn't access our WhatsApp chat, and we couldn't get on Instagram, we couldn't update our Facebook profiles. Yeah, we had a few hours out of social media. How did you feel when that happened? Does anybody want to start off? We usually have ease of access, don't we? But we had.
Go first.
You'd like me to go first? Well, it's kind of funny because in my case, I would say, well, it's probably good for everyone to have a rest from social media from any possible time that can actually happen. But at the same time, in thinking about that, and of course in listening to what's been said, you realize it's not just a rest from social media, but it's a break from people being able to do business, and a break from people being able to communicate because of all the dependencies on the platforms that Facebook owns, and the 2.8 billion people that are actually communicating across the multitude of platforms that are there. So that being down just made it felt like, hey, there's too much all in one place, and it's almost like it's like a risk to world communications to have that be at a company level rather than some ownership beyond it. So it's an interesting challenge that we put ourselves in, and then of course hearing about it, it's it almost feels kind of crazy that it's that big and that much impact could really occur. Of course, personally, I didn't even realize it was going on until somebody on the panel shared it with me, because I wasn't on at that point. So
Yeah, that's a great point. We rely on it so much, and it's a significant number of people, definitely, and it's global and it affects us all. What are your thoughts then, Kevin or Susanna? Do you want to just share your views? I mean, are you happy with the fact that you didn't necessarily have to access social for a few hours, or do you rely on it for business, for example?
No, I don't rely on it for business, but I just realized that how many of the people that are from my from my native land, India, that they're using WhatsApp to connect with me and not using my traditional phone number, because that's an international cost to them. So they were all using WhatsApp, and then to see them that not able to reach me, and I was also not able to reach them. And I just realized how much I was relying on this free service without thinking that could be yanked away from me. Maybe I am the product now of whenever something is free, they say you are the product that they are selling. So I just realized, okay, now I need to have a backup plan, something that is paid, so that I can access it. And also to realize how insecure the whole process of behind the scenes was when I was reading the stories. Even though I could not understand the technical terminology used, I still could see that it was so incompetent. Oh, that's your dog. Your dog also wants to join. Yeah, that really made me shocked. That's when they talk about encryptions and all the end-to-end encryptions, you feel so secure about it.
Yeah.
But the security level is as pathetic as me, that using multiple same passwords on different accounts, they were also doing the same thing at a different level. So that also made me feel less trustworthy of those mediums that I'm now using, especially WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. I did not even know Instagram was down or Facebook was down because I'm not even on those platforms. But I realized WhatsApp was down, and that's what made me go and look at the news to see what's going on. That's another.
Yeah.
I think if I can add on pretty much to what was already said, we've put ourselves in this place, like we're so reliant on WhatsApp. And I think it's funny. Bruce's dog there echoes all the sentiment of my extended family. Also back in India, on that day, or at least those 5 hours, I think everyone there uses WhatsApp, and some of them use Facebook. Not too many use Instagram, but that's literally all three of those, right? And when this happened, they had no way of reaching out to me, and we reach out to each other every day. And there was this huge panic. They were like, "What's going on? Is the internet down?" Right? That was a funny comment that my mom made as well. Like, is the internet down? Because that's all that's all they do on the internet, right? It's just WhatsApp and Facebook. And I remember a few months ago, I had actually tried to get them on other kind of instant messaging apps like Telegram that we kind of know. And another comment now comes to mind that my mom and dad had made then was, do we really need another app? Isn't WhatsApp like enough? It's amazing. It's so easy to use, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And now that I think about that, I'm realizing that, Facebook has made it so, attractive from a user experience perspective. Not a lot of people are willing to make that leap and change to a different app of any sort. And we all know that there are different instant messaging apps that are out there, but everyone just prefers, or most people prefer, Facebook and WhatsApp for their messaging.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you're saying, as a panel is I agree. We do rely on it as an application, as a chat tool, and also for sharing, images and audio, and particularly in a country like India where there's a dependence on it almost. Yeah, and I think there are alternatives, out there too. Sometimes we do put we rely on one application, one platform, maybe that could potentially put us at risk of not being able to communicate, with our family and friends. Yeah, if you're able to just turn the power off and then globally not talk to, to close members of the family. So definitely worth thinking about, isn't it, for the future? I think the other thing we were discussing as well was that also Francis Haugen brought up was safeguarding and the importance of making sure that particularly with Instagram, that we look after our privacy rights and really consider the harm of platforms like Instagram on young people. Do you think that there's an issue at the moment with platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and is it having an impact, do you think, on young people, particularly young girls, and their health, or do you think that it's okay, for them to use it as frequently sometimes as they do? What's your view?
Well, I guess I can start again, but I think it's pretty clear that, everything that we hear, read, see, study shows that, there's an impact. Things have started. I mean, it was a lot more Facebook originally, where, like with shaming and, people committing suicide as a result. I mean, there's been quite, studies. I mean, the dependency, it's kind of interesting going back to the previous piece of the conversation. If we go back in time, we didn't have this dependency on like, hey, if you couldn't communicate for 5 hours, that, wouldn't have been like, a surprise, right? You might have said, hey, I could communicate like, within a day. It's that dependency on things being instant has changed the entirety of the generation. And you're right, it's everybody's expecting instant feedback. And of course, if you don't get positive feedback, because you've created this dependency has really occurred on, social media across the board, that people begin to feel, they feel real pain. It's psychological. It's, there's mental health, issues that have, cropped up much, significantly worse. And it's just odd that society has created such a dependence on this. And you even think, we talk tomorrow a little about COVID with it, but it's only increased our dependency on, this connection. I like what Kevin said a moment ago, you know, is the internet down, right? You know, it's like the internet is now water to us, right? It's you know, it's the same as air, electricity, you know, food. You know, internet is the next piece of that we all can't do without. And right, it can cause a lot of pain from people just, you know, thumbs downing or, you know, creating that negativity around what we post. So I'll let others, you know, speak about it, but I know it's a pretty common theme that we hear.
Yeah. I think what struck me was from out of that interview, and also from reading her brief on the documents that she released to the public, is that Facebook was using was putting profits over the public good. Like what was good for the company was not good for the public. So it was not even aligned that way. So they had this conflict to build upon. That was their entire business model. And so there was no way for them to get around it, even though they had a civic integrity, panel put in before the elections, and then they removed the panel once the elections were over. They were like, okay, the election went fine. Let's dismantle this panel now. We are okay. And then January 6th happened, and they were like, oh no, it was not okay. But they just didn't realize that, that what they were doing was optimizing for engagement. By naturally optimizing for engagement, they were optimizing for hatred and optimizing for negativity, and also optimizing for anti-democratic forces to take part in this whole diatribe. So, what are your thoughts, Kevin and Bruce? What are your thoughts on having a business model that is diametrically opposed to the public good?
You want to start, Kevin?
No, I'll let you start, because I don't want to risk giving the wrong answer, because I feel like Susanna has a specific answer she expects from us.
No, I don't expect any.
I can take the bait. I know it's a trick question.
You want to?
Yeah.
I was
Okay,
not even
Shilpi,
on
let's
the
hear what you
panel,
have to
but
say.
this is such an
Go
interesting
ahead.
question. Yeah, I think that our the corporate board, I think how it is designed is they have incentivized profits so much to the point that even if you want to put ethics at the forefront, sometimes it is hard. Like, I don't justify whatever is happening with Facebook, and now they are a very big company and they can do whatever they want. But imagine something similar happening to a smaller startup. And that starts with the design and the senior leadership, right? So now if the senior, I always say that ethics has to start from the top down, and it can only happen, it can't go from the bottom up, it has to start from top down. But if the company doesn't make profit, it's like the cycle. Like you get the first round of funding, you don't get to the second round of funding or the third round of funding unless you show that you're doing well and you show profits. And not necessarily that you have to incentivize profits over a user. But our society, like this whole funding mechanism works that way, where it's hard. All I'm saying that yes, you have to put in a conscious effort to make that decision, draw that line, and be ready to walk away from even the next round of funding to stick to your ethical principles. It's not going to be easy, but somebody has to do it. That's my take. I'm going to go back and listen to all.
No, you can stay here. Stay here. Yes. Yeah. Anyone has anything to respond to Shilpi's comment?
The only thing I was going to say in there was sensationalism seems like that. If we go back to the comments I was making to the team, is if you were to watch the news, right, 95% of it is sensationalism and showing all the negativity, right? And so what started before this is only continuing. And Suzanne, you made a really good point to me that it's only become worse because now people are interacting with it directly where they really couldn't do that with the news. And so it's almost like Facebook and any others just took what the world was really asking for. You know, it's funny because it's and just making it worse, right? Just saying, hey, you really now can access instantly all this information and now react to it and just put, you know, continue to put your own spin to it, right? So all the, you know, you can have viral stuff that's fun, but boy, you can have viral stuff that just has incredible negativity.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like it should be their responsibility to do something about it. You know, and I think that gets back to you know, something I think Christina said at the beginning about, you know, is regulation coming? Will it help? You know, or is it always just going to be too late and not enough?
Yeah. And I always think regulation is a very low bar, right? So, and to your point, has someone seen the Apple new series on the morning show?
Yes.
Not yet, no.
It's exactly what, Bruce, you touched upon, right? I mean, movie makers say, news makers say, they say that, and even print media, all the media people always say, we only tell what the audience wants to hear. We only make films that the audience wants to see. We only bring out the role models in society that the society believes in or wants to see at that time. It's true and not so true, because if the media people don't do their job with bringing things that people are not ready for, how will people be ever ready for the right thing?
Yeah.
And it was really telling that, you know, in response to all this backlash, the policy director of communications at Facebook, this was her response, official response. She actually said, solutions have not yet been found by anyone. So if you know of any company that has found a solution to us, let us know. I mean, seriously? So
Yeah,
I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Solutions have not been found yet to this problem?
I mean, it sure seems like there are.
I feel like companies just need to think about it a little bit more, rather than, like, to your point, Susanna, just saying that, you know, there won't be a solution or saying that it's impossible, that kind of thing. I feel like, to Shilpi's point as well, like, ethics starts from the top down. I feel like in the future, once C-suite level executives start appreciating people more than their profit margins, it's very difficult. It's easier said than done, because they're both like opposite to their objectives or business goals, perhaps. That's kind of the direction we need to head towards. Looking at people as people than just numbers. It's again it's easier said than done. But if we have that mindset, I think we can come up with solutions towards this. Just need to put on that mindset for sure.
I think you're right. It's a really good point. I think it's making the C-level, C-suite a little bit more accountable and building a bit more transparency within organizations, you know, and knowing what's happening if you're building a piece of technology that could potentially, you know, change the world and benefit people. It's about putting the individual, the user first. Definitely, I agree. Really good points. Yeah. We need to know what's happening and how our data is being used and how the algorithm works within a particular application that's been developed and understand, you know, to build that transparency and trust. Yeah. And we need that guidance as well, right? Companies need guidance and those frameworks as well to support them. Yeah, that advice. So, yeah, really nice discussion so far. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep hearing about all these, you know, the new services that are, you know, are also free that actually protect your privacy.
Yeah.
But there's so few people that, you know, the other things have become so big. How do you even really, you know, make a change? Right?
Yeah.
You know, it almost feels like, you know, we're just, it's such a small place. I mean, you're right. I think we can all agree that, you know, change is needed. That's really, you know, an easy thing to say. Making it happen, I think, is what we're really, you know, what we're here for, is to try to help.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, all of our voices, I think, have some good agreement there. But all we can do is continue to push.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Frances Haugen also said that, you know, social media can be used for positive, and we need to focus on that. I think positive AI and social media for the future, and how we can create that trust, you know, is also important, and carrying on with that message as well. It can be used for good, you know, and we don't want to turn away from it, you know, at the same time. So yeah, it connects globally. It connects billions of people across the world, and we rely on it, you know. So yeah, we talk
allowing us to talk to each other, right?
Right. Yeah.
Allows us to talk to each other. So that brings us to the question of moderation and how to moderate content, how to moderate opinions that you know you don't necessarily disagree with, or while somebody is behind the scenes moderating the content of Facebook, they have to look at the freedom of speech of both parties and see which one should they moderate and which one becomes hate speech. Where do you draw the line?
Right.
So those are the kind of questions that we need to ask ourselves also when we post content and when we post comments, you know, make sure that, you know, it's our freedom of speech, but then how far should it go? Where are the boundaries? So what does everyone think on that?
I mean, I remember studying this, and I know that the conclusion of that, like some of the research that I've read, is that the human brain is just naturally attracted to divisiveness. I think Facebook realized this early on, and obviously it's not the best thing to leverage or take advantage of, but they did, and that's why, you know, you see the comment sections. It's usually more than just comments; they're arguments most of the time. And I think another realization that Facebook made early on is that a lot of engagement or consumption of the content itself happens in the comment section. A lot of people prefer finding their information from the comment section versus from the actual content that was posted, just to maybe validate what was posted or find out more information, get reviews and opinions on it. So all of that combined, I think Facebook is just leveraging, you know, people's emotions that way, and just the, you know, the brain's natural inclination towards divisiveness. Yeah.
We are socially motivated, right? You know, like if you share some things, like if you share a news article or something with me, not just on Facebook or anywhere, and then you post like a, you know, 1 or 2 liner, I'm more interested in what you said than what, you know, instead of reading the content itself. So because when we are socially connected with each other, we trust the person more who has forwarded that content to us than that actually reading that content and seeing whether it, you know, agrees with our opinion. So that's how I won't say that Facebook did not know the comment section would be their most engagement driven, profit driven, you know, section. They do know that, and that's why they actually leverage most of their algorithm works behind the scenes on the comment section and also on the likes and, you know, everything, not just on the, in your post. So they do know. So they did have psychologists there and, you know, manipulated us. But I wish they would have psychologists too on board to manipulate us in the other direction as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's a good point. We don't want to be dividing and you know, kind of going against free speech and what we mean by what we see as democracy either. But I think the amplification of negativity is something that needs to be, we need to look at that, and we need to continue having that debate and how we move forward with that. To get the balance right. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
At least amplify positivity also.
Positivity. Yeah. I think we need that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Great. Super. Yeah, so more transparency, definitely, and a more positive future, and ethics starting from top down, as Shilpi said. I think it's really key. Yeah. Do you have any other comments to make about, you know, what was raised? Frances Haugen covered quite a lot, but, you know, do you feel that you know, for example, that we can move forward and still use these tools to, you know, for the positive, and do you think we're going to be moving forward towards a greater data privacy and protection? What are your views on, you know, the next, you know, the future in terms of social media? and some of the risks. It's the final note.
I mean, if I can go first.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to also address, because I know we talked about mental health, or rather we mentioned it, but we didn't unpack it enough. But I know that we spoke about it, and we spoke about that particularly in the context of the younger generation.
Yeah.
Besides the whole community aspect of Facebook, there's also these features and tools within it that we should also acknowledge, such as the use of filters. From a content creation standpoint, I think when we talk about mental health, filters also need moderation. I know we talked about moderation of comments and discussions, but filters as well need moderation, or curating at least, because as we know, filters create this superficial sense of beauty or attractiveness.
Yeah.
And that kind of spirals into most of the mental health challenges that we face these days. So I think thinking about things like these specific tools and features as well is important for senior leadership. I know that the community aspect, the instant messaging aspect is also important, but I think these features itself will become more relevant in the future as well. To the point that was addressed earlier about taking all of these negative challenges and finding the good in them. Filters have been used for good, for example, virtual shopping. So maybe explore that a little bit more versus, the way it has been used negatively or, in a more addictive, toxic kind of angle so far. So yeah, just some thought starters, I think, for anyone listening to this.
And I think we do have some questions as well, right? So maybe we should take that and wrap it up.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, Alberta says, who decides? Okay. Yeah, if this is an internal effort, should we not be bringing third parties on board to help find solutions, from one of our audience members? And who decides? Okay. What do we think?
That's always the question of internal versus external audits. I don't think it's gonna work unless in countries like the United States, we have traffic lights and traffic signals, and because everyone follows it, even in the middle of the night when there is even no cars on the road, you will instinctively stop at the red light, even though there is nobody there, because that has to come from inside. So it has to be internal first and external next. That is my opinion. Like external can be, it's already there, but they are not complying with it, right? So internally, everybody from the top to the bottom has to feel that, and it has to be applied in that realm where you will do the right thing even if nobody's watching you.
That's right. It's a cultural change that we would hope happens across the board, although we know that when we look at the world, there's so much hate and challenge that it's hard to see the cultural change actually occur. So who decides? I think the people decide to actually do things differently.
Yes.
It can't be forced, and the corporations tend to just take advantage of whatever they can until they're really pushed to do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why organizations like Data Ethics for All have an important role to play, right? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, a third-party resource could be us, or a company like us, an organization like us. But I think the comment also asks whether this third-party resource should be brought on board to help find a solution. But I think the question really is, even if there are solutions, will the company implement it? Because for them, it's more of a question on, profit and revenue of that solution. And I think with solutions also comes testing. And just that experiment phase of it itself can cost the business millions of dollars, depending on the business, if we're talking about Facebook still. And I think Facebook or companies like Facebook would just be hesitant to take that on board. But still, there's definitely good that can come out of suggesting these solutions, and hopefully Facebook does, take that leap of faith and try out some of these good solutions that are out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's all about cultural change, like those touched upon, right?
Yep.
I mean, we have to draw a fine line. We have to walk this very difficult line where we have to make an ethical choice. It's like everything in life, right? I mean, our parents always said, I'm sure everybody's parents said the same thing, that whenever life gives you a turn, a fork in the road, taking the easy path seems to be shorter and easier right now, and it may seem like not doing the right thing will lead you to greater success in the short run, but then the longer path, the righteous path, may take you longer to get there, but it is the right way to get there. So I think on that note, thank you, my panelists and my leadership team. Thank you so much for this wonderful, inspiring discussion. I'm sure the discussion will continue. We can't solve this in one discussion, but it's the start and very much needed.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our morning session for AI Diet World 2021. Everyone join us again at 4 p.m. today, Pacific time, for the afternoon session of AI Diet World, where Betsy will be keynoting from IBM again. We just heard from Christina, and we'll be hearing more from Betsy. So stay tuned. See you at 4. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Okay,
See you
bye.
there.
Bye. See you soon. Bye.